Can you tell me? I need to know this. How do you do it? I don't understand. How do you do it?
Well, we play characters in a movie, and they happen to be apes. And so but the way that we play the apes is using a technique called performance capture, which is a way of, you have to think of it like another bunch of cameras filming an actor's performance. And we happen to wear suits with markers on and dots on our faces and head-mounted cameras. And all of this is to enable our performances to be caught and filmed to a very high degree of fidelity, so that the animators can then put those performances on top of, or overlay them with visual effects to make us look like apes. But the process of filming is exactly the same as a live action movie. Like if we were playing a scene together, it's exactly the same. So that's how it's done.
I had been an admirer of Andy Serkis's for years. I mean, I just thought, I of course was familiar with all of his work, and part of the interesting thing was to enter this and wonder exactly, even though from the outside you know he's amazing, you're not quite sure what he's doing is technical and what is performance, and these are all these things that I didn't quite know because I'd never done performance capture. And what was exhilarating for me was discovering so quickly that actually there's nothing technical about it at all.
Performance capture isn't so much about doing a lot of things or making a lot of movement. It's very subtle, so it picks up very, very fine body movements and facial expressions. So really it's about doing less than more.
The key to Andy Serkis's greatness is that he's a great actor. He's one of the best actors I've ever worked with, and he is such a soulful performer. And what was exciting was realizing that despite all of the technology, that it would be the same approach as any film I'd ever done in terms of dealing with the actors, and specifically him. You'd walk into the situation, there were other actors who had to play off of not some illusion, but Andy. And so it was really about the intimacy of the story, and that was the thrilling part, was realizing that the technology was not a block to the intimacy. In fact, it enabled it, and that working with Andy was working with an incredible performer.
The first film was very much a coming-of-age story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And this one is very much about father and son's family movie.
Yeah, I mean, that to me was the most important thing. Was, you know, I've heard people refer to this now because of the second film and the way we continued it, as being the Caesar cycle of the Planet of the Apes story. It's really so focused on his character, and the first movie was very much a coming-of-age story. And to me, what I wanted to do was take that revolutionary and turn him into a leader, but a leader who had tremendous stakes, who had a family.
Matt Reeves, the director, when he took on this, it was very clear that this wasn't going to be a big special effects fest, you know, that it was going to be a drama with characters that have balanced world viewpoints, and he wasn't going to be judgmental about whether they were humans or apes. He wanted to tell a story about survival and family.
Really, what we wanted to do was almost to do sort of like a Godfather story of apes, sort of have him be our Don Corleone of the apes, because really what the Godfather films are sort of this kind of Shakespearean kind of form, but told through a gangster story. And in a way, we wanted to do the same thing here. It's really a story about a father and his family and his sons and those relationships. And by exploring all of that, we can take a look at our nature, really, and look at the things that are important to us. And to me, one of the important things in Caesar's arc is him admitting to his son later that he realized that he'd come to believe that the apes were better than humans, that they might not make the same mistakes. And the big awakening for him and the big sort of movement of his arc is this coming to terms with the fact that the capacity for violence is within the apes as well, which is really a way of us looking at ourselves.
What do you think is the future for motion capture?
I think there's going to be an increase in the use of performance capture. It's already happening in many, many movies now. It's the language of performance capture enables actors to play anything. So I think might even move away from humanoid characters like apes into a wider variety of characters, because it really doesn't matter what size or shape or color or sex that you are. You can play anything. And that's philosophically, as an actor, what is so exciting. As a tool, it's the most liberating supporting actors at all. So you can, I mean, in the way that Benedict Cumberbatch played Smaug in The Desolation of Smaug in The Hobbit, you know, there were elements of performance capture used in that to author his performance, and I think there we'll see probably a greater degree of characters which are further away from the human size and form that are portrayed by actors.
So the next film, what's the natural move there?
Well, to me, the idea would be to continue. It's interesting because this is sort of like the beginning of ape history, if you imagine this. The great thing is that the original series of films exists as part of the universe, and in a way sets us on a trajectory. We know it becomes Planet of the Apes, not Planet of the Humans and the Apes, and that very much defined this story. And we'll continue to go sort of through the chapters of that story. And what's exciting for me is in knowing the ending, the story ceases being about what happens, and instead it becomes about how it happens. So it's a continuing story, I think, about human nature as seen through apes. And the next stories will be this continuation of this generational family story with Caesar as the seminal Moses-like figure of the apes. And we'll see how this world becomes the world of the '68 film.
There must be another way. Caesar!